All right, last reading, guys. This is Kat's story, Farroway Investigations Midnight. It was all one chapter. Right. Okay. Okay. Here we go. Yeah, interesting name. All right. Chapter 1. This was the break I needed. An investigation big enough to take on without needing some level 3 high horse asshole hovering over my shoulder. The Cassies had owned this parkland for decades, their connection to the land stretching back to the gold rush era. Locals still whispered about treasures hidden in the creek's bends and restless spirits that never moved on. Now the Cassies run a tourist trap, hiding pyrite in large piles of dirt on the dried creek bed to keep visitors entertained. The scene felt surreal as I stepped out of the van. The summer heat hit like a furnace blast, the air shimmering with intensity, while the distant gum trees stood motionless, offering no shade. Sweat rolled down my back, clinging uncomfortably under my shirt. The land stretched out, dry and cracked. The once lively creek bed now a skeleton of its former self. A few fake gold pans leaned against the reception shed, the bright paint peeling under the relentless sun. Dust kicked up with every step, sticking to my boots like a stubborn film. The oppressive heat and silence seemed to weigh on me, as if the land itself didn't want me here. This wasn't just another investigation. This was my shot to prove I belonged. A surge of worry gnawed at my stomach. What if someone higher ranked swooped in and claimed the case? I wouldn't put it past Lachlan or his team of bureaucratic parasites. They always seemed to pop up when I was about to close something big. Clenched my jaw. Not this time. They came to the Bureau of Paranormal Phenomena, BPP for short, after a sudden uptick in spirit sightings during their twilight hours. Things didn't get serious until one group member, a low-level sensitive, got possessed and tried to steal the pyrite from their storeroom. Apparently the spirit had started getting violent as more people took its gold. Lucky me. The office door was locked. Typical. The shed looked abandoned in its small window covered in layers of grime that distorted the view inside. My reflection stared back at me. Messy hair, tired eyes, and a face hardened by too many nights in haunted places. Shrugging, I turned back toward my truck, a lifeline in places like this. Climbing inside, I dropped my bag onto the desk and powered up the system. The hum of the equipment, a reassuring backdrop. My monitors flickered to life, casting a faint glow in the dim space. Pulling up the Bluetooth recorder, I started checking my gear. Each device synced flawlessly to the BPP's satellite connection. The tools of my trade, a GoPro, a Canon camera, my mic set, felt like an extension of me, the readiness a small comfort in the face of the unknown. My focus amulet caught the corner of my eye as I reached for my notebook. The silver coin dangled from its chain, its intricate sigils glinting faintly in the light. It wasn't just a tool. It was proof of my worth, my anchor in a field that constantly tried to shove me aside. I tightened my grip around it. As a level 2 investigator, I often had to defer to level 3s, but this case was mine alone. Somewhere out there was a spirit that had started causing trouble, and it was my job to find out why. I grabbed my phone and fired off a quick text to Daniel, the only member of Farroway Investigations. The only other member of Farroway Investigations. Me. I'm ready. Can you see the recorder? Dan. I've got it. Are you going live or just collecting and dipping? Might as well post an announcement and give me 30 to set up the externals. I reached for my duffel bag, pulling on my black lambskin gloves and attaching a leather thigh pouch to my left belt loop. Shedding my flannel, I donned my custom black leather chest armor. It fit snugly, the shoulder holster wrapping under my arms. I secured the first of my BPP-issued silver daggers into the holster. These daggers weren't sharpened. Their power lay in the purity of the silver and the engraved sigils along the blade. Grabbing vials of salt, sage, and my focus, I prepared for the work ahead. Finally, I stepped out into the stifling heat again, the dusty creek bed shimmering under the sun's harsh glare. The air felt heavier now, as if something unseen was pressing down. A subtle change in temperature sent a shiver racing down my spine. Goosebumps prickled along my arms, and my breath fogged slightly, a jarring contrast to the summer heat. I tightened my grip on my focus amulet, its cool surface grounding me against the unnatural chill. The creek bed stretched before me, an expanse of dry earth broken by jagged rocks and the occasional stubborn weed. The silence felt unnatural, too thick, as if the land was holding its breath. My stomach churned as anxiety coiled tight. What if Lachlan's team barged in unannounced, taking the credit I had worked so hard to earn? Pushing the thought aside, I focused on the camera. Securing it on a tripod, I adjusted the angle toward the creek bed. The knobs resisted slightly as I tightened them, the tripod steadying like my resolve. I framed the shot carefully, ensuring the background was open enough to capture any movement or anomalies. The blinking red light was a small but satisfying confirmation. Phone in hand, I adjusted my position in the frame, glancing between the livestream feed and the glowing red recording light. The countdown ticked down, my nerves prickling under the weight of anticipation. As the timer hit 0, the screen transitioned seamlessly to the live stream. Taking a deep breath, I planted my feet firmly and stood confidently in front of the camera, the faint glow of infrared light catching on my black armor. Good evening, everyone, and welcome back to Farroway Investigations Live. For those of you joining for the first time, I'm Madeline Farroway, founder, lead investigator, and your guide to the unknown. Tonight, we're on site at Cassie's Panning, a historical parkland outside Melbourne that's been the center of a growing number of spirit sightings. This land has a long history from its days as a gold rush hotspot to its current role as a tourist attraction. But lately, something or someone has been stirring things up. Reports of violent activity have escalated, and tonight we'll be driving deep into the mystery. I've already picked up some unusual temperature fluctuations near the creek bed and have set up an EMF recording device to capture whatever might be out there. My partner, Daniel, is monitoring the stream remotely. So if you catch something I don't, make sure to call it out in the chat. I crouched down, picking up a small, smooth rock from the ground. Holding it between my fingers, I traced a quick sigil in the air with my free hand, muttering a few words under my breath. The rock began to glow softly, emitting a warm, steady light that chased away the immediate darkness around me. Let's see what's waiting for us in the shadows. With that, I turned toward the creek bed, the glowing stone lighting my path. I kept my pace steady, the light stone in my hand casting just enough light to reveal the uneven ground beneath my boots. The thermometer clipped to my belt showed a steady drop in temperature as I descended toward the dry creek bed. The skeletal branches of nearby trees loomed like silent sentinels, their long shadows twisting in the faint glow of the stone. My breath clouded faintly as I exhaled, the creeping chill pressing closer with every step. The air grew heavier, the scent of damp earth mingling faintly with decay. A shiver raced down my spine. But I focused on the rhythmic crunch of my boots on the gritty soil, every sense heightened as the unnatural chill seeped onto my skin. 30 degrees when I arrived, I murmured into the mic, watching my breath fog faintly in the cool air. Now it's sitting at 18. The rapid temperature drop clawed at my skin, heavy and oppressive. This fast, this much. It's not normal. At first, I thought it was just the wind rustling through the trees, but then I caught the faint rhythm, a repetitive scraping, metallic and sharp, like metal striking stone. It echoed faintly, distant yet clear, carrying an eerie, deliberate cadence that sent a shiver down my spine. Are you guys hearing that? I asked, my voice wavering slightly as I glanced down on my watch to check the audio levels. The sound sent a ripple of unease through me, the rhythmic scraping growing louder in the quiet night. My grip on the mic tightened, and I scanned the dark landscape around me, every shadow suddenly seeming alive. It sounds like a pickaxe, maybe someone panning for gold. I couldn't help the dry chuckle that followed, but it faltered quickly as the sound persisted, its eerie cadence drilling into my nerves. Seems a little late for that, doesn't it? The sound didn't stop as I reached the creek bed. If anything, it grew louder, more deliberate. I glanced at the camera I'd set up earlier. Dan, keep an ear on this. If we're picking it up on the live stream, tag the timestamp. Kneeling down, I brushed away the loose dirt with my glove and found a faint trail of grooves in the dry creek bed, as though something or someone had dragged a heavy object across the ground. My light caught a faint glimmer in the dirt, and I reached for it, pulling out a rusted metal pan. I turned it over in my hands, brushing off the layers of grime. It was dented, worn down by time, but unmistakable, an old gold panning pan. Looks like we've got a souvenir from the rush days, I said into the mic, holding the pan up for the camera. The Cassies weren't kidding when they said this place had history. The air around me grew heavier, the temperature dipping lower with every passing second. A whisper, faint and low, drifted past my ear. At first I thought I imagined it, but then it came again, louder this time, a single word I couldn't quite make out, carried on a breath of icy air. "All right then," I said, trying to keep my tone light. "Seems like someone wants to talk. Let's see if we can figure out what they're trying to say." The whispering grew louder, more insistent, but still indistinct. Then came a new sound, something distant, rhythmic, and unmistakably human. It was the sound of boots pounding against hard-packed dirt. I spun around, my hand instinctively going to the dagger at my belt. That's when I saw it. A figure sprinting toward me from the far end of the creek bed, its outline flickering with an otherworldly glow. Each step was unnaturally fast, erratic, as though driven by a force beyond control. The glow cast jagged shadows across the creek bed, emphasizing its blurred, incomplete form. Its edges blurred like smoke dissipating into the air, muted grays and whites swirling within its translucent frame. The figure seemed to struggle for definition, its tattered clothing and twisted features only partially visible, as though caught between worlds. This wasn't just any spirit. It was a level 2 entity caught in a death echo. The Bureau classified death echoes as repetitive, residual hauntings where a spirit relived its final moments over and over. Usually harmless, they could turn dangerous if their echo was disrupted, and this one was far from harmless. The pickaxe it carried shimmered and pulsed with ghostly energy, a spectral tool tied to the miner's last violent act. If the echo wasn't resolved, its aggression could only grow, potentially turning it into a vengeful spirit. With every step, the miner's spectral glow brightened, its translucent form flickering like failing light. The ghost's incomplete outline revealed its limits, a reminder that this was no fully formed apparition. I tightened my grip on the light stone in my hand, the chill of its surface grounding me against the oppressive energy radiating from the spirit. The faint, muted colors of its tattered clothes and translucent limbs contrasted sharply with the vivid malevolence in its hollow eyes. "Holy crap," I breathed. "Dan, mark this. We've got a full-bodied apparition, armed and not exactly friendly." The spirit let out a guttural growl, raising the axe as it closed the distance between us. My breath caught and my heart pounded in my chest, each beat echoing like a drum. I dropped the pan, my fingers trembling slightly as I tightened my grip on the lightstone. Planting my feet firmly, I forced myself to stand my ground. The chill of the amulet in my hand grounded me against the rising tide of panic. I raised the stone, its faint light casting shifting shadows around me. "As a keeper of the dead, I command you to halt!" I shouted, the words clear and firm, channeling power through the amulet beneath my armor. The spectral miner hesitated, its form flickering like a flame caught in a breeze, but he didn't stop. I squared my shoulders, the weight of the ghost's presence pressing heavily on my chest. The air was thick, suffocating, and the whispers were more urgent now, buzzing in my ear like 1,000 voices trying to claw their way through. I felt the burn in my palms, the familiar surge of power as I pulled the vial of sea mixture from my pouch. The orange cap glinted in the dim light as I flipped it open, the contents inside, a mix of salt, iron pellets, and sage, suddenly feeling heavier in my hand. I was about to release the contents into the creek, the ritual forming in my mind when I heard it. The deafening crack of a shotgun blast tore through the air, shattering the tension like glass. My heart slammed against my ribs, and for a split second the world seemed to tilt. My knees almost buckled as I whipped around, instincts roaring to life. My grip on the vial tightened, the cold metal biting into my palm. The sound left my ears ringing, the vibrations crawling down my spine like an aftershock. "What the hell?" I muttered, my voice barely audible over the adrenaline pounding my ears. Lachlan Mandock. Just the thought of him made my blood simmer. His name is a constant irritation that never seemed to fade. His cocky grin was the first thing I noticed, a smug expression plastered across his face as he strolled into the scene, his footsteps almost deliberately loud now after sneaking up on me. He had his team with him, all of them wearing that "we own this" look they carried around like a badge of honor. "What do you think you're doing, Farroway?" Lachlan called, his voice dripping with condensation as he came to a halt just a few feet away. "Need a little help with this one?" I bit my tongue, refusing to let him rile me up, but the frustration roiled inside of me, bubbling up like a slow burn. "I've got this under control," I said, my voice steady, though I could feel the edges of my patience fraying. Lachlan stepped forward, the air around him suddenly feeling colder, more oppressive, as though the ghost itself had stepped back in favor of his arrogance. His eyes gleamed with that all too familiar superiority. Enough of this, Madeline. This is our investigation now. You're out. You don't get to finish this one. You can't just take this from me. I'm basically done, I snapped, my voice sharp with anger that I couldn't fully mask. Frustration twisted in my chest, each word feeling heavy with desperation. I can actually, and I am. You've had your fun, but this isn't for amateurs. My stomach twisted, frustration bubbling under my calm exterior. Who the hell does he think he is? The words I wanted to throw back at him burned on the tip of my tongue, but I swallowed them down, knowing that arguing would only fan the flames of his arrogance. Reluctantly, I turned to leave, but as I passed Levi, I caught his gaze. He didn't say anything, but his sympathetic look made the frustration welling up inside me even worse. Levi was decent, at least. Don't worry, Levi said quietly as I walked by, his voice the only comfort in the tense, hostile air. You'll get your chance. I straightened up, the weight of the moment settling heavily on my shoulders. Lachlan had taken the investigation, but the night wasn't over. Not for me, not for the viewers who had stuck around. I walked to the cannon, forcing a small, weary smile for the camera while frustration gnawed at me like a persistent itch I couldn't scratch. Well, folks, looks like that's it for tonight. My voice wavered slightly as I tried to mask the frustration clawing at my chest. I forced a small smile, glancing at the camera. But inside I felt a storm brewing. Lachlan's interference had robbed me of the closure I'd worked so hard for, and I hated leaving things unfinished. Still, I couldn't let the viewers see how much it stung. Unfortunately, I am policy bound to hand over this investigation to the lead rank on site, but thank you for joining me. I'll be back, and next time, we'll see it through. I took a deep breath, letting the cool night air fill my lungs. Good night, everyone. Stay safe, stay curious, and remember, the dead never stop watching. I clicked off the live stream, the screen fading to black, and stood there for a moment, looking at the darkened landscape one last time. I might as well get a head start on picking up my little brother. Whoa! Dang. Okay, that was really, really good, Kat. That was so good. Oh, I just realized I didn't have my little face cam down there. Whoa! Too big, too big. Go away. You guys couldn't see my reactions this whole time? Wait. What's happening? Wait. How do I get back to where I just was? There we go. Very enjoyable. I would agree. That was so enjoyable. Kat, that was really, really good. I was not expecting it. I don't know why. You are a teacher. I feel like you have the skills. But, like, man, really, really good. There, like, in terms of, like, feedback-wise, I really don't have much. There's, like, a few, like, formatting things. Like, I think you would benefit from putting your dialogue on separate lines, just because it can be a little difficult to read, like here, for example. But that's something like an edit, like a second write-through would fix very easily. There is one line that I thought was a little awkward near the end. It was when you were talking about your frustration. It just felt, I think the sentence was slightly redundant. When you were talking about frustration gnawing, frustration bubbled. Right here. Let me double check. Yeah, this was the only line that I thought was like, oh, felt a little awkward because it's slightly redundant. But that's it. I'm like stretching. I'm reaching. This is a very long time in the making. Yeah, I can tell. I can tell you put a lot of work into this. One part after the EMF reader. Yeah. Kat, is this story done? Like, is this a book that you've completed? Because this feels very, very polished. Like, these two chapters. Or are you, like, writing, polishing, then moving on, writing next chapter? Like, how does that work? wouldn't even know. I don't know the EMF reader part. I didn't pick up on awkward dialogue, but maybe just I was like very engrossed in the story. So it felt very smooth to me. No, I'm chunking it after a few chapters and go back and. Okay, interesting. So how far of this have you got completed? That is an interesting strategy. I feel like that would drive me crazy. All the power to you to keep doing that, because then you don't have to rewrite the whole thing when you're done. Yeah, it was really good. Um, like if I were to leave any type of feedback in the actual story wise, um, like I'm just reading the end of the first chapter here. No, I don't even want to. I don't want to ruin it. I think this is really good. I don't want my opinion to change anything that you have going on because I think this is very good. All I was gonna say is like maybe do like some ghost sounds or like something to like tell the readers that it's actually real for chapter one. But then again, I think how you left chapter one is really good because it kind of like leaves it open ended and it made me want to keep reading. So completely ignore that. I think you set it up really well. My thoughts were just in terms of like how to make it like a successful publish when you're marketing it. But I think it's already set up in a really strong way. I am almost at the climax. A few scenes away. It's 42 out of an expected 60. Yeah, I really like it. Your world building was great. Um, you set up like just that whole idea of this bureau, the BPP. I think is great. Um, the scene setting is awesome. Uh, like the imagery is great. Everything's actually really good. I don't have enough good things to say about it. First person can be a little clunky, real easy, but you nailed the narration with that 10 out of 10. I would agree. Yeah, I got nothing else to say, guys. Does anybody have any other feedback for Kat? I'd hate to leave you empty-handed, Kat, but I guess feedback in the form of praise is pretty good feedback, right? You can't go wrong with that. Well, I'd love to keep reading it. So when you get done your other stuff, like whatever chunk you get done, like add it back to the read list. Like I'd love to keep reading this live on stream, and then kind of see where it goes.